You're looking for different ways to try and score in the red zone. I came across a great variation of the mesh concept that you might want to run in your offense. That's going to get receivers open in space against a tough, aggressive man defense, and as well as a tight, condensed field where there's not much space to move. You're going to want to check this out. A lot of coaches are asked what their favorite pass concept is in the red zone. A lot of coaches you hear say that the mesh concept or some variation of the mesh concept is their favorite play, and I couldn't agree more. So why is mesh such a popular choice for many coaches to use down in the red zone? Mesh is so popular to use, especially down in the red zone, because of the type of defense you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of man defense because of the space that is taken away by the boundaries of the field. So there are a lot of different variations of mesh, and there is no right or wrong way to run mesh. It's all based on coach preference, but they all have the same thing in common. All mesh variations have something in common. They have those crossing routes in the middle of the field. All variations of mesh rely on those crossing routes in the middle field. However, on the outside is different. There are many different variations that coaches like to use. There are variations where you have out routes, variations where you have that outside receiver running a deep slant and sit in the middle of the field. Also have variations where the outside receivers are going to run post routes. Depending on your formations, you also could use the running back in a rail or wheel route out of the backfield. All mesh variations are similar in the fact that with those crossing routes, they are relying on defenders chasing receivers, which creates open space, whether for the crossers or for the routes behind or on the outside of the formations. So mesh is very similar in the fact that it relies on a man defense a lot of times to be successful. It can be successful in zone, but a lot of times mesh is called in a man beater, which is why it's so heavily used in the red zone area because of the type of defense and the man defense that you typically see down in that red zone. This variation I'm going to show you also relies on formation to set it up. It relies on motion to set it up, but it's still mesh at its core. And it's also a way to take advantage of the type of defense you typically would see down in the red zone. This variation of mesh that I'm going to show you relies on all those things. It relies on the crossing routes. It relies on the defense, hopefully being in that man coverage, hopefully devoting more players to the line of scrimmage because of the position of the field you're in. And with those crossing routes, creates that congestion in the middle of the field and creates that space on the outside. Before we get into the actual variation of this mesh I'm going to show you, let's talk about the defense that you would typically expect to see in the red zone. A lot of times you're going to see, based on the position of the field, a man defense. Very rarely will you see a cover 2, cover 3 in that position of the field because the field works against the offense because there's not as much room to move. Therefore, the defense can devote more players to the line of scrimmage because typically in that position on the field, you're more than likely going to see a running play. So therefore, the defense could own up a lot more players towards the line of scrimmage, trying to stop the run, not expecting passing plays as much. So therefore, mesh is a highly used play in this position of the field because of the man-beating qualities it has. To these defenses in this position of the field, what do they not like? One thing that defenses do not like in this portion of the field are condensed formations because a lot of times what it does is it takes them out of their man defense. They almost have to play a zone because all the players are congested in the middle portion of the field. Man defense would be very, very difficult to play against that kind of a formation. The reason being that the defense has to come out of that man coverage because of that condensed formation is because the defense can be very, very easily picked on by crossing routes, which is why a lot of offensive coaches like to call mesh in this portion of the field because they know typically you're going to see a man defense, and therefore they're going to use those crossing routes to take advantage of it. You combine that with a condensed formation and it becomes that much harder for the defense. You will see the defense devote more players towards the line of scrimmage because typically offenses, percentage-wise, like to run the ball more in that position of the field because it's harder to throw because there's not as much space to move. However, just because there's more players at the line of scrimmage devoted towards the line of scrimmage does not mean that that's going to be a blitz. A lot of times defenses do not like to blitz in this position because what it does is once that team blitzes, once that defense blitzes, now the windows are created right behind where that blitz came from, and offenses can take advantage of that with a quick RPO action or quick play action to take advantage. So a lot of times you will not see defenses blitz. They will devote more towards the line of scrimmage to try and stop the run, but they will not blitz. Another couple things that give defenses problems in this portion of the field are outbreaking routes as well as quick motion. I can think of no better play than the play that won the Chiefs Super Bowl that utilizes these two things against the defense. Reed called this play corn dog. You see a receiver start out wide. He motions back in to create that condensed formation. Cornerback has to respect it, has to follow along. And then once the ball is snapped, you see that receiver bust back out towards the outside, towards that front pylon. Pat Mahomes rolls out to his right. It's an easy throw because it creates that confusion. And also the corner is not in position to follow. And there's that space on the outside for that easy throw and easy touchdown. This variation of mesh has all that. It has the condensed formations. It has the outbreaking routes. It also has that quick motion that's going to get those receivers open very, very quickly that the quarterback can easily take advantage of. Breakdown of the play here. We are in a 2x2 set in a condensed formation from the 10-yard line. Like I talked about earlier in the video, defenses do not like these condensed formations because it takes them out of that man defense that they typically like to play in this type of field. Breaking down this play here, we are in a 2x2 set, condensed formation from the 10-yard line. Like I talked about earlier in the video, a condensed formation gives defenses problems in this particular portion of the field because typically a defense wants to play a man coverage because the boundaries conflict what the offense can do. So therefore they can get away with playing a little bit more man defense. So this condensed formation, like I talked about, makes them struggle because it bunches everybody up towards the middle of the field. Factor in, we're also going to use some quick motion and we're going to use some outbreaking routes, which again gives the defense problems, especially if they want to stay in a man defense. You factor in the fact that we are going to be running mesh, which is going to have those crossing routes, creates added problems for the defense. So what we're going to do first here is we're going to put H in a fast motion. So he is going to be in a fast motion behind the line of scrimmage, and he's breaking out almost into a rail route up the opposite sideline. And he's going fast. He's not slow. This is almost like a jet motion. Our X on this side, he is the mesh under. So he's going underneath. Our Z in this case, he is the mesh over. So he's at about 5 yards going across the field, and they are trying to get as close as they can to each other. Typically in practice, you have them slap hands to try and get them into that mindset that they need to be basically rubbing shoulders as close as they possibly can get to set that mesh. Our running back is going to run basically another wheel / rail route out to the opposite sideline here as fast as he can go. And we're going to get to this progressions here in a minute. Now, our Y in this case, he is going to run a post, but he's basically aiming. His landmark is going to be the center of the goalpost. He's going to get there, and then he's basically just going to sit down and look for a hole in the middle of the defense right there. So what are we looking at for? What we are looking at is is this defense going to stay in man coverage? If they are, then typically this guy right here, this linebacker right here, he is going to be chasing the H all the way across the formation. And he's got to go through a lot of traffic because this ball is going to be snapped before he's across the formation. Basically, we would have the quarterback snap this ball when our H is essentially right around the opposite tackle here. And we have it timed up that. So he's got to run through all of this, not to mention if it's in man, he might be responsible for that Z. So he's got to run corner, might be responsible for X. He's got to run with, and you have all these conflicting players trying to chase their men in the middle of the field. Someone's going to get bunched up. Someone's going to get lost in the fold, and someone's going to be popping open. So that's what we're hoping for. And that's what we're looking at. So essentially the progression is going to be quarterback is going to look to this side. He's going to look to try and hit this rail route immediately because this technically should pop open. This route right here should pop open. Now he should not be hitting this in the end zone. He should be hitting this right here because H should be at full speed right here. And this space should be open because of the condensed field here, the condensed formation. brings this corner in, you have and you create essentially this space to the outside with the formation. You create that space. Now, quarterback is going to look to the corner. He's going to look to this corner right here to see what he's doing. What does this corner do? Does this corner shoot out and then all of a sudden does that motion catch his eye and does he chase that? Because if that does, and this safety doesn't do anything other than just kind of chase the Z, then quarterback can immediately hit Y right here on the post immediately. So he has that option. Now, obviously, if the corner stays with that post, then this rail route is open automatically. So basically, the progression would be simple. He's going to look rail, back to post, to mesh under. So his eyes go to the sideline, to the middle, and back down. Now, also, theoretically, what we could potentially have on this side is if this linebacker right here is responsible for the running back, again, you're going to have two guys coming across the formation. Defenders theoretically are going to be chasing them because they're in man coverage. There's a lot of space right over here as well. So if we see this corner kind of chase or move over and the quarterback does not like what he sees over here, he is going to have essentially a one-on-one space. This safety is going to probably be playing center field here in the middle of the field, but he could not get over to cover that rail route on the opposite side because he's going to be focused more on the stronger portion of the formation, especially with this man going in motion. That's going to catch his eye as well. So a lot of eyes are going to be focused in on this. Running back can very easily sneak out and get hit with the rail route. To show you what this potentially could look like on the field here, we're going to show you again condensed formation here, pre-snap motion, fast motion here, expecting this linebacker right here or overhang, it might even be a safety, to follow through all this congestion right here. Ball is supposed to be snapped when it gets to the opposite tackle. So expecting this player to run through all of this mess. You got a post sit here at the goal post. You have your mesh under, you have your mesh over, and a lot of congestion right here in the middle of the field created by the formation. Also the confusion and eyes get set onto this fast motion here. Quarterback's eyes again would go to this corner first to see if he jumps out to take that motion man, or does he stay with the post? If he does jump out to take that motion man, then you can hit that post right here in this little spot right here in the portion of the field. So we'll take a look at it real quick. And you can see how theoretically, how quickly that would potentially open up, especially if that defender who is chasing that motion man is really, really late getting to that motion or chasing that motion. Defense will have to communicate that, pass it off possibly. If they do pass it off to the corner, does he leave that post route open to right at the goal line? You can hit that ball basically just on a quick little streak route right there, 10-yard streak route right there at the goal line. So potential big play opportunity here, created by formation, created by the formation, like I said, the motion and just the route selection, quick outbreaking routes with a condensed formation, bound by the goal line, using mesh, using those crossing routes, creating all of that confusion in the middle of the field will spring a receiver open for an easy score. There you have it. That is a great mesh variation you can use down at the goal line. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a like down there. Also, subscribe for more content. And also, if you want to see more content, check out this video right here.